I actually have no experience, obviously, with dumping someone, but I have experienced dumping jobs, like loads of experience.
Yeah, me too.
Dumping jobs. But I think I remember so clearly the first time I had to leave a job, and I was so upset. I just thought I was letting everyone down. I thought I was really going to leave them in the lurch. I really thought that they would be really disappointed in me. And I think it comes from, I worked as a like junior intern, whatever it was, at a company, and the guy was such a misogynist. I'll have to tell you the whole story like one day, but he was awful. And I remember trying to leave and it being a real hoo-ha, and I ended up just saying, I'm not coming back tomorrow. Like, I'm not,
Wow.
You won't be able to pay me, that's fine, not coming back. But I had my mum's help with that. Mm-hmm. So when I had my first proper time job, I'd been there for 4.5 years. So a long time. And I just remember feeling like letting everyone down. And then I can't remember who told me it, but someone said something along the lines of like, their comfort doesn't come before your growth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that completely changed it. Also, another thing someone said to me was, if you did get struck down by a bus, they would replace you.
Yes, you are replaceable.
You are replaceable.
It'd be
Especially in jobs.
sad. It'd be, but you are replaceable. The business will have to keep going. Mm-hmm. The world keeps turning.
Even the ones that are like a pillar
on.
of the job, which I think that you were quite integral in that company, give it a year and they won't remember you.
Well, in the nicest way, I wasn't, because I was replaceable.
Yeah.
But also when you work in a job, I feel like I've worked in jobs where like you get so caught up. I literally felt like I was like, that sounds like, mama. You're like literally like, oh my God, like I'm back in work, leaving work, back in work. And you're just like stressed the whole time, and everything feels so much bigger than it is. Everything feels so much more stressful than it is. And then when you leave that job, when you move away and you're like, oh, it just wasn't that big of a deal, was it? Do you know what I mean? And like the company still's going on. They were really sad to lose you. Like they probably realized after you left just how much you really did for the company and like whatever. But like the world kept turning. Everyone woke up the next morning and went back into work and continued.
We want to give one away, and we're going to give it to someone who sends us a foot pic.
Nope. No, we're not. Please comment your shoe size on the YouTube video and subscribe, and we will pick a lucky winner.
And you will get a pair of Karcher trainers.
And when we say lucky winner, it's the one whose
shoe size is the right
shoes.
size.
We're not just going to send you
who is Cinderella?
some shoes that are way too big or way too small.
Yeah, you will get a pair that fits your feet.
But you don't know what the size is, so that's the
pop
game.
that little size in the caption or the
And
comment
no
or the
feet
something
pics, please,
below.
unless they're to Dots.
Just to me.
Instagram.
Just to me.
Yeah.
I think from an early start at my career, I was given the sort of told of like when we had agents or clients come to us and they were like, oh my God, we need this by tomorrow, or we need this yesterday. It would be like, whoa, no one's dying. We're okay. Like,
Nobody
just calm
dies.
down.
I do feel sorry.
We do things. So I never, because I didn't work in hospitality that long, I kind of went straight into corporate.
So I used to say this at jobs, and it was brilliant because it sort of brings you back down to earth when you go, nobody died. It's all good. It's not the end of the world.
This isn't brain surgery.
But then
this isn't rocket science.
I talked to my friend Chrissy, who works in A&E, and I'm like, I don't know what to give you as advice.
Just constantly stressed.
I used to just make apps that no one really cared about.
Yeah.
Like
when at 5 p.m. you were allowed to go home. Yeah.
Well, Slack on my phone, but anyway,
But so something else I wanted to bring up to anyone who is listening. So we're obviously quite a girly podcast. We can only obviously speak from feminine, girly
point of view,
perspectives. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know that speaking to a lot of other women have felt this way. This idea that there'll be people that are disappointed or like whatever. So I want to tell you potentially 3, but might not have enough time, at least one story about a man who completely couldn't be bothered to even respond to my resignment, me resigning. So it's like, I was actually I wasn't for these 3 people because I've learnt my lesson, but I had been in the past so worried that I would be disappointing someone. But in 3 instances, I would then say to someone, look, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to leave. And I didn't even get a response.
I can't believe that's so rude. Like, I get not giving you like, oh, gushing, oh, I love you, oh, no, stay.
Oh my God, I'm so upset that you've left.
Just a nice little like, thank you for the message, understood, goodbye. Like, it doesn't have to be much, just like, it could even be sassy, but not acknowledging it is wild.
I had the same with one of my jobs in town. I didn't get a response to my resignation.
Really?
And then another job I had, hospitality, I did send in my resignation. They were like, no worries. And it's like,
Better than
that
nothing.
it does show that
Why are
you
you so worried
spend
about this?
time, and I always say, don't worry about something until it's happened.
Yeah.
Because I spend so much time worrying about something. What if I get to the restaurant and then this happens and then they don't have this on the menu and then da, 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 da. And it's like, and then you get there and everything's fine. You're
How
like,
much
why
time
was
do you
I
think we've wasted in our lives?
Yeah.
And I know people have that really good saying of like, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yes.
And I get that, but there's also part of me that's like, well, why? Like if you
Just
tell me to
prepare for
prepare
what's
for the
expected.
worst,
See, this is
I'm
the
going to be
thing.
preparing for a very long time and wasting a lot of my time doing it.
However, I am a project manager who had to do risk reports. So
Yeah.
you do sometimes at work have to do that. But I think in terms of the stuff that you can't control,
When you think logically,
don't
but
need
don't
to.
waste your own emotion on
Yeah,
like the
no.
worst case scenario and like maybe they're going to be so upset that I've left and da 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 da. It's just
No.
like also at a certain point have the audacity of a man and just do it.
Oh, hey, sorry for the interruption, but we are trying to get to 500 subscribers. So if you're enjoying what we're talking about, hopefully you do, please do subscribe and let's get back to the video and find out what the hell I'm talking about. How many times have you gone somewhere and you printed, maybe not YouTube because you're not A-type people, but how many times have you gone somewhere and printed out the receipt or the ticket or whatever, just in case, you know, the digital version doesn't work and then they don't even check the digital version. And you're there like, I stressed about this and printed it out.
I've got
3
it on
days.
card. I've
Yeah.
got it on paper.
I've got my excuse for why I was 3 minutes late.
I do get really stressed about like travel and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like I
It's
don't
always
like my
fine.
phone being out of charge, so I can't get my e-ticket, and then they'll go at me, and then I'll
It's
pay a
always
ticket.
fine. You always just get kind of,
fine.
go on then, in you go. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
Well, that was like
Thanks, babes.
literally 3 hours of my life wasted on stressing. And I'm really having to work on this. And anyway, whenever I think like, why am I stressing about this? I just remember those 3 men who couldn't even be bothered to give
Respond
me
to you.
a response. And I'm like, okay.
Be more like them. But you've got, okay, I'm stressed about leaving my job because I'm stressed about the other person, the physical handing my resignation. But like, what about the whole emotion behind I'm changing my entire life to start
Especially
a new career?
if you're changing
Yeah.
a new career. If you're like, because you quit your job relatively recently to go from like graphics, UXy stuff to content creation, it's still, I would say, within the same part of your brain. Like it's not a complete
Creative.
overhaul of your brain space, but it's quite a big jump.
I'll tell you why it's a big jump for me is because I very much come from a family of like, you go to school and then you go to university
you
and
get
then
a good degree.
and then you get married and like you have this very like this is what you do and you work for the man and unless you are super lucky or you've got an amazing idea, you don't work for yourself. So then this idea of me not only going in and working for myself but having absolutely nothing to kind of fall back on
Yeah.
and it being this social media job that no one really
looked down
understands,
upon.
especially older
Yeah.
people. It was really hard to explain this. I mean, my mum and dad were perfectly supportive, but like family wise, it was really like, so what are you doing? I just have to say I'm self-employed. I
say
do
that.
stuff on the freelance. I freelance artwork and stuff. Like,
I said
I'd have
last
to say
night,
that.
I was in a cafe with Alana and the guy in the cafe was like, he knew me from West Bay. I said, what do you do now? I said, I'm a content creator. He said, a what creator? I said, I make videos. And he was like, what kind of videos?
Yeah,
and I'm
they
like,
They always
assume
think it's
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
yeah. I was like,
hate that.
DIY content. He's like, huh?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I make silly videos. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
But like, I come luckily from a very different family. My mum and granny have always said Heather will never work for anyone. She'll always work for herself. They were wrong. I worked for a lot of people for a long time. But like, it's not as long as the rest of the world did.
See,
like,
I've had the same thing where both my parents are self-employed. However, that meant that when I left home, I was obsessed with stability.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really have that. Then I went to uni and I was like, right, how do I get a job? I'm obsessed with getting a job. I need income
wanna work
every
for the
month.
man.
Yeah.
I've watched not being able to pay the mortgage. I've watched being stressed about that. So then I get out the other side of university with a job, good job actually, much better than I expected. And then I go through a few years and I recently sort of quit out of that because everyone around me is self-employed, which is brilliant. But I've seen the bad side of self-employment. So it is hard to make that jump, especially if you haven't got those people around you.
And in a time when everyone, like the topic of conversation is always, we're all fucked. Like, do you know what I mean? Everyone's like, oh, no one's got any money, like rising this, rising that. Like, it's quite hard to be like, in a world that's really hard to get ahead, I'm going to make this jump and just take a bet on myself.
I think the way to do it, because I had a very privileged way to get through it because Miles had already done it. But watching him go from actual employment to not, you've got to make it so it's a side hustle, really.
Yeah.
And then you
For
get to a
long
point
enough.
where you have enough cash and you've got a solid enough cash flow to then move out into it.
Yeah, 100%.
The big jump is sometimes necessary, but without any backing, I would be worried. But I mean, lots of people do it and are very successful. So
And just tiny weeny little thing, the job market right now is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
Unless you're looking to be a carer or be an Amazon delivery driver, there's fuck all out there. And I'm coming from the perspective of someone that's got an economics degree who has plenty of work experience managing large teams and doing good jobs, and there's nothing out there. So it kind of makes that opportunity to switch career and do something a little bit different, a little bit more tantalizing, because it's like, well, I'm either going to be, I would have to go back and be a barista, which I've done, and it's not below me to do so. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
But I've done the 6 a.m. starts and I don't want to do it anymore. And I've managed cafes, I've managed restaurants. So I don't really want to be a barista anymore. But there is nothing out there. It's very hard to find your dream job nowadays. Like your dream job has to fit into a box, or you've got to do it yourself.
And you know what they're all saying? These kids don't want to work nowadays.